Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guest is Ethan Pierce. Ethan is the co-founder and CEO of Grocery Outpost. Welcome, Ethan.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you guys have been on a interesting ride over the last couple of months. Why don't you tell our listeners what it is that Grocery Outpost does?
Yeah, so Grocery Outpost is bringing your farmer's market right to you. So we're actually partnering with lots of local restaurants. We have 12 restaurants now in Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville. And we're turning these restaurants into micro farmers markets where consumers can actually go to pick up super farm fresh products and products from small batch local businesses and suppliers.
So obviously this is an idea born out of the pandemic. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of the idea and how it came to you. And ideas are worth nothing. It's the execution that counts. So tell us about your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, like so many others, found myself facing joblessness in April. And rather than go on what seemed like a really challenging job market in tech here in Boston, I decided to do something to hopefully help local small businesses and restaurants for the summer. I thought at the time it would be more of a summer community service project than anything else that I could test out some business ideas with. But I reached out and found my co-founder, who was a Toast employee who had recently been laid off as well. We met and we really clicked. 2 days later, we launched our first Grocery Outpost website, and 2 weeks later, we actually got our first Grocery Outpost pickup with 2 pilot restaurant locations.
Wow, so you guys really move at the speed of light.
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. So what has been your journey's learnings along the way? I'm sure there's been many of them. What you first thought was going to be a community service project has turned into something that's probably an incredibly valued service, I would think, to the restaurants and to consumers.
Yeah, there have been so many learnings. I think both Emma and I come from product backgrounds. So Emma was a user researcher at Toast, and I've been a product designer for most of my career. And so we are just super agile and all about throwing mud at the wall, testing things out, seeing what works and what doesn't. And there have been so many learnings along the way. We launched initially with a sort of imperfect food CSA style box where you could just get a set of fresh fruits and vegetables. And we quickly found that consumers really wanted those a la carte products as well. And so we've been constantly iterating and adding to our product catalog. But we've also been really iterating on our product experience at the same time. We actually launched a 3-week test of a grocery delivery service in June to really test and validate whether or not are consumers just coming to our restaurants because we don't have delivery, or is there something that's really interesting and special there? And we actually found that less than 5% of our consumers opted for the delivery service, which was really validating and really exciting that A, they didn't want to pay the $8 delivery fee, and B, they didn't mind the hassle of walking down the block to this local restaurant, and they actually really enjoyed that connection with this local small business.
I'd imagine it creates, sort of a win-win, an opportunity for them to get out, to experience, and to interface with people out in the community and supporting their local restaurants. So, feel-good moment at the same time as getting some fresh food. So, where are you guys at now? You said initially you thought it was potentially a summer community service project, and what's your vision for how this rolls out? Lots of fingers crossed in a post-pandemic world. Do restaurants have capability to be able to continue to provide the service?
Absolutely. So I grew up on an apple orchard in Maine, sort of the son of small business owners. And so small business has always been really important to me, even as I moved into this crazy, weird tech world. That's been really exciting and quite a ride. But I think what we're seeing as an opportunity for Grocery Outpost is the capacity for us to build this really distributed network of local pickup locations across New England. with all of these restaurants. And because we're offering these really hyper-local pickups, we're actually able to plug in a lot of small suppliers that wouldn't be able to ever work with a large national vendor or regional vendor. So it's an opportunity for us to plug in micro businesses and be really hyper local. We're excited to start offering CSA pickups at our location. So really thinking about this as a way to scale sourcing hyper local products. And so our vision now is becoming, hey, can we build a farmer's market or a farm stand on every block? Can we make that convenient access to this hyper local food, something that everyone has?
Wow, really neat concept. In terms of the access to food, and forgive the naivete and not to pick on big business, but are you getting, because it's local, because it's fresh, are you getting what can be construed as a higher quality product than you would get at your typical large grocery store?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really remarkable. A lot of our local harvest share literally comes in the morning of, very early, like fresh picked from the farm. And so as someone who is really busy right now and doesn't always get through the entire box, I've watched that product sit in my fridge for a week and a half and it still looks fresh. Which just never happens if you go to the grocery store. So it's just
Right.
remarkable.
I actually had that conversation last week with somebody saying, that fresh fish you're buying in the store has probably come off the boat a week ago.
Right.
And same is true with produce. As a matter of fact, I saw something similar in my neighborhood just last week. I was out for a walk and there's been a truck at the same house every week. And it's a farm to consumer delivery service, essentially congregating at one person's house every week. And, same thing. I said, my response was, it must be really fresh. And they said, well, it was all picked yesterday. And so that's very different than sort of that, retail model where it probably goes to a distribution center and sits there for a couple of days and then goes out to the retail stores. So what you perceive as fresh at retail is probably 5-7 days old in a lot of cases, whereas you're getting really fresh product.
100%. And I think what a lot of consumers don't realize, a lot of that product, if you go to one of these big box retailers, is being trucked in either from places around the country or even quite a lot of it is brought in internationally.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really shocking or really surprised me, like the price of getting that avocado from South America to Boston is the same cost as getting it from Boston to your address in Cambridge. So that last mile of delivery is incredibly expensive traditionally when you're doing a home delivery service. And so that's the same sort of cost structure that makes getting local product from your local farm incredibly expensive traditionally. And so the exciting thing here is that we're really able to reduce a lot of those costs by working in this restaurant fulfillment model.
And where are your challenges today? Are they on the supply side or the demand side and looking to scale?
I think with any two-sided marketplace, which I definitely consider this, or maybe even a three-sided marketplace, if you think supplier, restaurant, and consumer, you're always going to be spinning all of those wheels at the same time. So we've been incredibly fortunate to have a lot of demand on the consumer side. So it's really for us managing to work through a lot of the operational challenges of scaling, and that's one of the exciting parts of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like a wonderful model, and you guys are off to a great start. Wish you continued success through the pandemic and beyond. Where do restaurants generally see themselves as having capacity? I know we're sort of in a funky time. I've heard mixed reports from restaurants. Some restaurants that are very successful because between their takeout business and their outdoor seating, they've managed to exceed their traditional indoor capacity, which it was hard to believe 5 months ago. Are you seeing restaurants say they can manage this in addition to what we consider normal capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our restaurants call this extra credit because the product arrives prepackaged for the consumer. So they just put it into their refrigerator if it's perishable, and the customer comes and it's just like a takeout order. The customer will say their name and their order, and they just get it from the fridge.
So very low touch, very low logistics for them.
Very low touch, very low logistics. And then looking, at Massachusetts here, really striking statistic, 3,600 Massachusetts restaurants have closed because of the pandemic, which is 23% of
Wow.
state's restaurant. And today is the first day of fall, right? So I was just out to dinner Friday night. I've been trying to support, and when I say out to dinner, literally outside.
Outside.
And it's
Extra layers.
yeah, it's getting brisk.
But you're a Mainer. You're used to this. Yeah, this is.
I am a Mainer, but not
got
everyone.
Another 3 months until summer's done.
It's so true. It's so true. But definitely anticipating. We've had a lot of restaurants reaching out to us, even over the last couple of weeks, as they're starting to think about fall. And it's frightening because those outdoor dining seats, it's not over yet, but it is becoming more brisk. And they're looking at, it might be next summer before a vaccine gets out there. So it's really a time for all of us to rally and figure out how to support these small local businesses, because they're not just service providers. They're not just making us food. I really think these restaurants are vital cultural centers for our community. They're places of meeting. And particularly the small independent ones. Some of these have been there for 20, 30, 40 years. And we're not going to recreate those in that history, in that community.
Absolutely. I'm dating myself, but think Cheers, right? Folks came to Cheers because it was a place to meet, and restaurants serve the same purpose. Ethan, it's a great story. Ethan Pierce, co-founder and CEO of Grocery Outpost. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? And I assume that's either for supply or demand.
So if you go to www.groceryoutpost.com, there are lots of links there for you to check out our product or story and get directly in touch with Emma or myself.
Fascinating. Wish you the best of luck moving forward. And you are definitely somebody we're going to want to check back in and have again, because see how your business thrives as things hopefully turn for the better, overall. So wish you continued success on your entrepreneurial journey. And we'll be right back with another story of entrepreneurship on Radio Entrepreneurs.